Donald Trump wants to be feared as a global kingmaker, but lately he looks more like a man shouting orders into an empty room. Allies decline his invitations. Critics refuse to play along, and every angry outburst only shrinks his shadow. In a strange twist of political irony, the louder Trump gets, the clearer Mark Carney's warning becomes power built on intimidation collapses the moment people stop pretending. This isn't just about ego or insults. It's about the end of an illusion America once sold to the world. So here's the question that should haunt Trump. What happens when no one believes in your power anymore? Donald Trump unveiled his so-called peace council with the confidence of a man convinced the world was still waiting for his phone call. In Trump's telling, this elite group would reshape global order, oversee the reconstruction of Gaza, and quietly confirm that he remained the center of gravity in international politics. The problem was simple and devastating. Almost nobody showed up. Canada was out. Europe politely declined. What was supposed to look like a triumphant return to dominance instead resembled a forgotten group chat where only the admin keeps posting. The most revealing moment came when Canada was abruptly removed from the list. Trump claimed he had excluded the country on purpose, but the sequence told a different story. Mark Carney publicly stated that he had no role in this council, no interest in joining it, and no intention of pretending otherwise. Only after that did Trump pull the invitation, a classic reversal that exposed the fragile psychology underneath. Real power does not rescind invitations out of spite. Real power does not need to explain itself at all. European leaders reacted with quiet indifference, which may be the most humiliating response of all. There were no dramatic denunciations, no emergency summits, no fiery speeches, just silence. In diplomacy, silence is rarely neutral. It signals that the offer was never taken seriously. The council had no legal authority, no institutional backing, no international mandate. It existed purely as a declaration of ego, not as a functioning mechanism of peace. The irony was brutal. A council meant to prove relevance ended up demonstrating irrelevance. Trump's foreign policy style has always relied on spectacle. Announce something big, speak as if it already exists. Dare others to contradict it. For years, many actors played along, partly out of caution, partly out of habit. This time, they did not. Mark Carney refused to perform. Europe declined to participate in the theater. Once the audience stopped clapping, the stage lights exposed the emptiness of the set. This is where the Peace Council becomes more than a failed idea. It becomes evidence. Trump believes power is something you declare loudly enough until others comply. Carney understands power as something that functions only when it is accepted as legitimate. When legitimacy disappears, volume does not replace it. It only highlights the absence. The council was not rejected because it was controversial. It was rejected because it was unserious. Trump responded the only way he knows how, with insults and resentment. Canada, he claimed, survives only because of the United States. This was not strategy. It was insecurity speaking in public. Instead of persuading allies, he scolded them. Instead of offering stability, he offered dominance. The result was predictable. Leaders who do not want to be treated like subordinates simply walked away. The Peace Council collapsed before it began, not because of resistance, but because of refusal. That distinction matters. Resistance feeds Trump's narrative. Refusal drains it. When no one shows up, there is no conflict to exploit, no deal to brag about, no victory to invent. There is only a man standing alone, announcing authority to a room that has already moved on. Davos is usually where power dresses up as wisdom. Billionaires speak softly about responsibility. Politicians pretend cooperation still runs the world. Everyone plays their role, nods at the right moments, and agrees not to say the quiet part out loud. Mark Carney walked onto that stage and did something far more dangerous than attacking Donald Trump directly. He refused to perform. No theatrics, no flattery, no ritual praise of American leadership, just a cold, precise dismantling of the system Trump believes he controls. Carney did not shout. He did not threaten. He did not even mention Trump by name. That was the first strike. Instead, he repeated one word that echoed through the room like an accusation: hegemony. Not America as a partner, not America as a leader, America as a hegemon. The distinction mattered. He used the term multiple times, calmly, deliberately, forcing listeners to confront a reality they usually soften with polite language. This was not a rhetorical flourish, it was a diagnosis. Then came the line that landed like a blade. Systems, Carney said, do not survive because they are true, but because people agree to pretend they are true. In one sentence, he explained the fragility of Trump's entire worldview. Trump believes power is self-sustaining. Carney exposed it as performative. Once the performance stops, the illusion collapses. The room understood exactly what he meant, which is why the reaction was nervous silence rather than applause. Carney went further, laying out how modern power is exercised. Economic integration is no longer cooperation, he argued, but leverage. Tariffs are not policy tools but weapons. Financial infrastructure becomes coercions. Supply chains turn into pressure points. These were not abstract ideas. They described real events, trade wars, tariff threats, sanctions used as blunt instruments, allies scrambling to reduce dependence on American-dominated systems. Carney was not predicting the future. He was describing the present Trump helped create. What made the speech explosive was its restraint. Carney did not moralize. He did not claim superiority. He simply stated consequences. When integration becomes a trap, countries look for exits. When partnerships feel like dependence, diversification becomes survival. When leadership sounds like extortion, refusal becomes rational. This was not ideology. It was economic reality spoken without makeup. Trump understood immediately. That is why the response was so personal. Instead of countering the argument, he attacked the speaker. Canada, Trump said, exists because of the United States. This was not rebuttal, it was confirmation. The insult proved Carney's point more clearly than any follow-up panel ever could. Power that must remind others of its importance is already leaking. The genius of Carney's move was not what he said, but what he denied Trump. He denied him the spectacle. No outrage, no sparring, no performance of submission or defiance, just refusal to play along. Trump thrives on reaction. Carney offered none. In that absence, Trump's bluster sounded smaller, thinner, strangely desperate. Davos did not erupt that day. Markets did not crash. Headlines did not scream revolution. Something subtler happened. A senior figure said out loud what many leaders already believed, and then stopped pretending otherwise. That moment marked a shift. Not the collapse of American power, but the collapse of the act that once protected it. And once the acting stops, the audience starts leaving. Donald Trump does not believe in strategy, he believes in deals. Everything is a transaction. Everything has a price. Everything can be threatened into submission. Allies are customers. Security is a bill. Loyalty is rented, never earned. In Trump's world, power is measured by how much pain you can inflict in the next news cycle. The problem is that global politics does not run on short-term invoices. It runs on memory, trust, and consequence. Three things transactional thinking quietly destroys. Under Trump, tariffs stopped being economic tools and became weapons waved on television, steel tariffs against Europe. Trade wars with China that rattled global markets. Threats against Canada and Mexico despite decades of integrated supply chains. The message was clear: cooperation is optional, pressure is permanent. Trump sold this as strength. In reality, it trained the world to hedge against American unpredictability. Mark Carney's warning at Davos landed because it named the cost of this approach. When economic integration becomes coercion, countries do not submit, they adapt. Supply chains shift. Currency exposure is reduced. Trade routes diversify. Europe accelerates financial autonomy. Asia invests in parallel systems. None of this happens overnight, but none of it is reversible once it starts. Transactional pressure produces strategic exit plans. Trump's defenders often say, "This is leverage." They miss the point. Leverage only works if the other side believes the relationship is worth preserving. Once trust evaporates, leverage turns into a countdown. Every threat teaches partners a lesson. Dependency is dangerous. That lesson spreads quietly, boardroom by boardroom, ministry by ministry. No tweets required. The irony is brutal. Trump wanted allies to fear American power. Instead, he taught them to plan for life without it. Strategic reality does not reward intimidation. It rewards reliability. The United States once set rules others followed because they believed the system benefited them. Trump replaced rules with mood swings, predictability with grievance, leadership with performance art. Consider energy policy. European dependence on external suppliers became a vulnerability once weaponized. The response was not obedience. It was acceleration toward alternatives. Consider manufacturing. Corporations burned by tariff chaos restructured supply chains away from political risk. Consider finance. Sanctions used aggressively pushed countries to explore non-dollar settlements. None of these moves weaken America tomorrow. They weaken it gradually, which is far more dangerous. This is where Carney's argument cuts deepest. Trump treats power as something you spend aggressively until it runs out, then blame others. Carney treats power as something you conserve by making it useful to others. One approach generates headlines. The other shapes decades. Trump demands tribute. Carney understands alignment. Trump's supporters mistake noise for dominance. They see shouting as command. They confuse submission with silence. What they miss is the quiet work happening underneath. Strategic reality does not announce itself. It adjusts. It roots around obstacles. It waits out volatility. Transactional America assumes everyone is trapped. Strategic reality assumes time is on its side. The collapse here is not dramatic. There is no single breaking point. That is the danger. While Trump boasts about deals and threats, the system he relies on is slowly recalibrating against him. Every tariff threat accelerates it. Every insult confirms it. Every demand without legitimacy feeds it. Trump believes the world has no choice. Carney understands the world always does. And the more America treats cooperation like extortion, the faster that choice becomes obvious. Every political collapse has a single sentence where the mask slips. For Donald Trump, it was this one: Canada exists because of the United States. The line was meant to intimidate. It landed as a confession. In that moment, the self-styled strongman shrank into something far less impressive. A leader so irritated by defiance that he reached for insult instead of argument. This was not policy. It was impulse. Canada is not a fragile dependency clinging to American generosity. It is one of the largest economies in the world, a G7 member, a critical trade partner, and a country whose stability predates Trump's political career by generations. The United States does not sustain Canada out of charity. The two economies are deeply intertwined, balanced by mutual benefit, not subordination. Trump knows this, which makes the statement revealing rather than ignorant. Strong leaders respond to criticism with strategy. Weak ones respond with ego. Trump's remark was not aimed at solving anything. It was aimed at restoring wounded pride after Mark Carney refused to play along. When Carney declined Trump's imaginary peace council and dismantled transactional power politics in Davos, Trump did not counter the logic. He lashed out. That is the smallness moments. Smallness in politics is not about volume. Trump was loud. It is about scale. A leader secure in power does not need to remind others who they are. A leader confident in legitimacy does not rewrite reality in anger. Trump's statement reduced American leadership to a tantrum dressed as nationalism. Instead of projecting strength, it broadcast insecurity across borders. The timing made it worse. This came amid real geopolitical strain, wars, fragile alliances, economic fragmentation, climate pressure. At a moment when allies are searching for stability, Trump offered contempt. That is not dominance. That is erosion. Every diplomat understands this instinctively. Public humiliation closes doors. Private frustration opens negotiations. Trump chose spectacle again. The humor is dark because the contradiction is obvious. Trump claims to defend American greatness, yet speaks in a way that makes America sound petty. He demands respect, yet shows none. He insists others need the United States, while teaching them exactly why reliance feels dangerous. It is political self-sabotage performed with confidence. Carney did not respond. He did not need to. Silence did the work. When one side shouts and the other side does not flinch, the audience notices. The contrast sharpened. One sounded strategic. The other sounded small. That difference travels faster than any press release. Historically, American power rested on attraction as much as pressure. Allies followed because they wanted to, not because they were threatened. Trump inverted that formula. He treats alignment as obedience. He treats partnership as weakness. In doing so, he shrinks the very influence he claims to defend. This is why the insult mattered. Not because it offended Canada, but because it exposed Trump. The statement revealed a leader who cannot tolerate independence, who interprets refusal as betrayal, who equates respect with submission. That is not how empires endure. That is how they alienate. The smallness moment was not the insult itself. It was the desperation behind it. And once the world sees that desperation, it never unsees it. Donald Trump's worldview rests on a single, brittle assumption. Everyone is corrupt, everyone is self-interested, and everyone will sell their principles if the price is high enough. Power, in this framework, is not something you build. It is something you squeeze. Loyalty is not earned, it is extorted. Truth is irrelevant. Performance is everything. For a long time, this worldview survived because enough people played along. Then Mark Carney did not. And the moment someone refuses to pretend, the entire structure starts to crack. Trump believes there are only two types of actors in global politics: winners who take and losers who submit. There is no room in that model for restraint, legitimacy, or long-term stewardship. That is why Carney's existence is such a threat. Carney operates on a different logic. Power is effective only when others consent to its use. Influence lasts only when it produces shared outcomes. Leadership is not domination, it is alignment. Trump cannot process this because it contradicts his core belief that morality is fake and courage is a performance. Ezra Klein's insight cuts straight through the noise. Carney was not making a speech for applause. He was taking a risk. He openly rejected the idea that global systems must accept coercion as normal. He named the weaponization of trade, finance, and integration without hedging. In Trump's worldview, that kind of act should not exist. It should be punished or ignored. Instead, it resonated. That resonance is the collapse. Trump's response pattern reveals the failure. He does not debate. He belittles. He does not counter arguments. He questions existence itself. Canada exists because of us. Europe is freeloading. Allies are weak. These are not positions. They are coping mechanisms. When legitimacy slips, Trump reaches for humiliation. When influence fades, he turns to grievance. That shift is not strength under pressure. It is ideology breaking down in real time. The collapse is not electoral. It is conceptual. Trump's model assumes fear is sustainable. Carney's challenge proves it is not. Fear accelerates exit strategies. Fear teaches resilience. Fear motivates alternatives. The world Trump imagines is static, trapped, dependent. The world that exists is adaptive, cautious, quietly preparing for distance. This is why leaders declining Trump's initiatives matters more than leaders opposing them. Opposition validates importance. Refusal denies it. When Europe ignores the Peace Council, when Canada declines the stage, when silence replaces outrage, Trump loses the fuel his worldview requires. There is no deal. There is no drama. There is just absence. The humor in all of this is cruel, but undeniable. A man obsessed with dominance ends up proving the value of restraint. A leader who mocks cooperation accelerates independence. A worldview built on transactional certainty collapses when confronted with principled uncertainty. Trump did not lose an argument. He exposed the limits of his imagination. Carney did not defeat Trump by overpowering him. He defeated him by existing outside Trump's frame. That is the final rupture. If not everyone is corrupt, if not everyone is for sale, if some leaders still believe in legitimacy over leverage, then Trumpism is not realism. It is cynicism masquerading as strength. And once that illusion collapses, there is no insult loud enough to rebuild it.